Good afternoon to my colleagues, to the people of the territory,
Good
to
afternoon.
the testifiers. I am in full support of this piece of legislation. I actually had already started quite a bit of research and was about to submit it in when I realized my colleague already had it. So I am for it 100%. You know, when I was looking at it and how impactful it was since Hawaii did theirs from back in 1998, I said, look at the difference prior to what it is now. And I saw the benefit of where this piece of legislation has impacted across the U.S., and I potentially hope that we could now bring it here to the territory. One of the things we have to recognize is that people mess up sometimes. People make mistakes. And if we have a penal system that says we're going to punish you, to continuously make that person almost be punished throughout their entire life is unfair. And I do agree that there are some situations where employers would need to know. I'm not going to act like if you have a criminal record of molesting children, I don't need you near daycare. So there's always going to have situations where those things are necessary. But for the mass majority of individuals, banning the box and taking away that person's right at a second chance, we need to make sure that this becomes law here in the territory. You know, we have a lot of things where we have registries for sexual offenders. You know, sometimes I wonder, well, if you went that far away, you don't have a registry for murderers. I mean, my argument is you're worried about them, but there are people moving around our community that have taken people's lives. You know, you say one, you say two. But people in our society need to have that chance. And for me, I don't want to pretend that I'm on the side of somebody that has done wrong and we're trying to give them a second chance. I also want to make sure that the employers that have to be concerned about people coming into their workplace is also protected as well. And would this bill in any way infringe on their ability to still do background checks or stuff like that, that would still give them that sense of security as opposed to just cutting off an individual just because of how they filled out an application? And anyone could respond.
Nisha Christian Hendrickson, Assistant Commissioner, Legal Counsel for the Virgin Islands Department of Labor. No, the bill is very clear that it only delays when the background check does occur. So instead of putting it up front and removing the ability for someone to even apply or be interviewed, this puts it later in the hiring process after that conditional offer is presented. And it still allows an employer to rescind a conditional offer in the event that they don't feel that the person is suitable based on their background.
Exactly. And I wanted you to put that on the record because a lot of times these hearings are for the public and that clarity has to be known. From the Department of Labor standpoint, do you guys track data as to what percentage of people that might have come out of prison to say are seeking jobs? Because that's an important aspect as well. So you could track the impact that a piece of legislation like this might have on our community.
Nisha Christian Hendrickson, Assistant Commissioner, Legal Counsel. Time. The difficulty that we have with that is a lot of people do not self-disclose.
Okay.
So in the event that someone does come to us and they say, you know, I had this difficulty and I'm trying to look for a job and I'm having trouble, or let's say they go to our Labor Relations Division and they say, I had been arrested in the past and I was prevented from getting employment afterwards, we'd have that number. But many times, since they don't disclose, we don't have as many numbers as I think are adequately reflected in the community.
I know I heard time, but I just want to ask one last question in connection to this. Does the Department of Labor work with, say, the Bureau of Corrections or even the court system to potentially get that list that you could cross-reference, that even if they don't disclose it, you would still have some type of data to know that, hey, these two names pinged one was in. Do you
Yes.
collect information like that? Because, like I said, we want to show that when we pass laws in this territory, that they impact and help the people of this territory at the end of the day.
Yes, we do. We do collaborate with the Bureau. We actually have an apprenticeship program right now in culinary arts, but we do work with them to make sure that it's a collective effort. They're housing them for a period of time, but once they come back into society, we have to work with them to make sure that they are the right fit for the next level.
Okay. Well, my time is up, and I do support this piece of legislation. I've signed on. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the additional time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon once again to my colleagues, to the people of the territory. Good afternoon to the testifiers. In regards to this $5,000 bonus in regards to Port Authority, is that tax-free or?
No,
because,
it's not. It's taxable. It's taxable.
Well, then that might be part of the problem, because by the time you take out taxes, you ain't really incentivizing me at all by the time taxes are cut out. So maybe if you bump it up and they actually do walk away with $5,000, that might be a different story. I wanted to ask a couple of questions in regards to the lottery. I know the last time you guys were here, and I know my colleague mentioned about the piece of legislation, and we did have a vigorous conversation around that. And you say you're attempting to tweak legislation, having conversations. Have you guys looked into some of the things we talked about having a little bit more teeth when it comes to the enforcement officers? Because that was a major aspect during the last hearing that we recognized had need to be strengthened.
Good afternoon, Senator Jakima D. Richards, Director, Security and Investigations, Virgin Islands Lottery. Yes, we have.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Also, one of the things, like just me watching, because I noticed since you guys moved to the building on the waterfront, how is parking down there? Because I am very much concerned sometimes when I go in the area to go to the grocery store. I see our elderly, because you see dealers around there, our elderly are moving around. I get concerned when I see all the cars switching back and forth. I'm wondering how the employees park. How is that working out? And especially when you see sometimes our elderly dealers around the area in regards to their safety as well. How do you guys handle that?
Well, as you just stated, Senator, parking is, of course, atrocious. The only individuals that are allowed to park on the side of the building would be enforcement and the director. Anyone else that's parked there, if it's not a law enforcement vehicle, we ticket them. Because there are no parking signs that are obstructed. Like, as far as the dealers that are there, within, like, we come out, my enforcement officers, they come out, they have conversations, like just do a little random patrol while checking, making sure no one is parked alongside that exterior parking.
Well, I know you're here for one aspect, and I'm tossing out, consideration of when that location was selected. Do you know how many employees work there? Because that seems to be a major situation I encounter almost anytime I go around that area.
I'll yield the question to the Deputy Director, Charlene Proctor.
Good afternoon. There are about 25 employees in that building.
About 25? Okay. And is there any conversation as to how to adequately accommodate for that many people dealing with parking in the area?
No, basically we try to come early and park in the areas where there's no 1 hour parking signs. Okay.
Well, thank you for bringing me up to speed on that. I wanted to ask, when it comes to Waste Management Authority, if somebody sees someone doing something, I know one of my colleagues spoke about miraculous piles of tires showing up overnight. If somebody sees something, how do they directly contact and reach out and get some type of assistance?
1 minute.
Usually, Senator, what will happen is we have been getting complaints through 911. 911 will reach out to one of my officers. They will get dispatched to that area, yes.
I know that they used to have signs at the various dump sites. Do those signs have on? I can't say I've seen some that say waste management, etc. Do you have a phone number or something on these signs that if somebody sees something, they could just call in right away to your enforcement officers, etc.?
I know on the signs you do have what you can and can't dump. In reference to the number, I cannot answer that right now in reference to the number.
Okay. Well, do you think that's something that should or could be done? Because, you
Yes.
know, to be occupying our 911 system for what I would not consider an emergency, but it's hazardous to our environment overall. If there was a direct number to get to you guys on these signs, that might be helpful in assisting with the problem. So if that's something you guys could check out for me, I would really appreciate it. I think I heard time, I'm not sure, but thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the time and this round of questioning.
Thank you, Senator. You didn't hear time.
2 minutes. Thank you. Good afternoon once again. I just have 2 quick questions. Number one, if someone happens to see, if you guys happen to see on video Waste Management Authority what somebody's doing that's illegally dumping stuff at what do you guys do? And what is the largest fine you've ever put out for individuals that you've caught on camera?
The largest fine that we have put out for caught on camera is $1,000.
Okay.
We have issued greater fines than that, but it was actually in-person fines. It wasn't caught on camera. That's to answer the first question.
So that's the largest on camera. And give me an example of a larger infraction that you've put fines for in person.
So we have issued fines of $5,000, which sewage was spewing from someone's business. So they did get a $5,000 fine.
Okay.
That's to answer your first question. Second one, yes, if someone sent us a video whereas a vehicle is going down the road with no tarpaulin, they send it to me, I will forward it to the officer. If the officer is in that immediate area, they will get to the scene, make the traffic stop, and they will issue the citation. Or what I will say is they will send me the picture. Once we get a good picture of your license plate, we will run it through Vitima. Vitima let me know who you are, where you live. I will send one of my officers to your location, to your house. They will issue the citation.
Okay, understood. The second question I wanted to ask is lottery. I want to go back to the safety because, again, I know we have a lot of elderly senior lottery dealers. And because I frequent that area, I am so concerned about their safety sometimes. Who authorized for the parking on the sidewalks? Because I know, how does that work out? Because I know sidewalks are for people to walk on, not to be out in the street. So when you guys are occupying the sidewalks and people have to now walk out in the street, who authorized for that to happen? And is this a temporary situation? Explain to myself and the audience.
Jakima D. Richards. Jakima D. Richards, Director, Security and Investigation, Virgin Islands Lottery. As far as, because of the vehicles, the law enforcement vehicles and what's inside of the vehicles, the cameras, having the cameras there, we're able to track what's taking place as far as our vehicles because of what's inside of them. Seniors, we're monitoring the cameras. So if a senior looks to pass or whatever, we assist them. But it's rarely, most of the seniors walk alongside the Ashford building, where Ashford is at, alongside that other building where it's covered and out of the sun. That's where most of our dealers sit as well, because it's out of the sun.
Okay, and to the question that I asked about parking on the sidewalk, was that authorized or is that a temporary situation?
It's just a temporary fix for now because of the logistics of the location.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Thank you. Is that all you need, ma'am?